require port-in, purchase of eligible device, and activation on plans $50 or higher. Includes 6 months of access to one Hulu limited commercial plan per eligible line for new Hulu subscribers only. Additional restrictions apply. Terms at www.boostmobile.com/Hulu-terms. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
Aging gracefully isn't easy. Low T, thyroid issues, and weight gain all conspire against you. Enter Vitality Wellness Group. Vitality Wellness doctors are experts in hormone therapy, ED, and a host of aging issues. Call 504-309-4172 or visit NOLA.HRT.com.
Hi, Eric Ashwood, celebrity chef Scott Craig of Katie's. Scott, you have to be excited about Katie's expanded second floor seating and private dining rooms.
Yeah, but how about my vast local sports knowledge?
You know sports, but shouldn't we be talking about your award-winning Sunday brunch?
I'd rather talk about the Saints and the Pels.
How about your award-winning pizza or daily specials?
How about them Saints?
I admit you have a great take on local sports, but what about Katie's award-winning menu?
Okay, folks, I invite you to dine at Katie's. Eric and I don't have to brag about the food at Katie's. The food speaks for itself.
Katie's open 7 days a week in the heart of Mid-City at 3701 Oppenheimer.
This week on Big Easy Deals, get a family 4-pack to the Audubon Butterfly Garden and Insectarium for just $34. Watch as the beautiful butterflies swoop and soar all around you. Go to foxsportsam1280.com, keyword deals for your half-off certificate today.
Here's today's tax tip. Americans miss out on money in their tax refunds every year because of overlooked deductions. Jackson Hewitt tax officer Mark Stieber says the IRS is lacking a safety net for these missed opportunities. Stieber says 1 out of every 5 taxpayers loses money on their refunds because they don't know all the deductions that they're qualified for. The most commonly missed deductions are those that don't have to do with life changes.
They don't find the credit you left off and say, oh, here you go, here's an extra $500 or $5,000. They're not really in that business. So if you as a taxpayer leave something off of your tax return, it's just money left on the table.
For example, starting a new small business that a taxpayer doesn't think has generated enough income, taking care of older relatives or family members that have moved in, and education credits that are claimed when someone goes back to school. If you were among the millions of Americans looking for work last year, job hunting, moving expenses, and even the cost of printing resumes is often overlooked. That's today's tax tip from NBC News Radio. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Duncan Holder on a Tuesday, March 20th. Larry Holder, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier at iHeart Central. And what do you know? Jeff Duncan gets back a day earlier than I anticipated. I assumed he would be held over for customs. I assumed he would try to steal the crown jewel. At least go maybe take a big hat from one of the Royal Guard. But you did none of that, Jeff.
No, but it is good to be back.
Good to have you back, bud.
I am a little tired, though. Thank you, Dave. I am a little tired. You know, coming back from London is when you get the jet lag because your body clock is off, and I'm suffering from that right now. I wasn't back till probably 11 o'clock last night. Went straight to bed, but I'm still off a little bit.
That's why I assumed you would not be on this show today. And then you were calling me from Newark yesterday. Hey, I'm coming back. I'm like, all right, we got a seat for you, even though if you have any idea what's going on outside this door of this studio right now, you would assume we would be air traffic control, like on a jetway, because it is extremely loud. It's like when the day we were still back at our NOLA.com time speaking studio, and Dave would open the door, and it sounded like there was a jackhammer beating him over the head one day, and we had to keep Dave at a minimum. But I don't know, Dave. Are we sounding okay? Or are we going to get totally swamped by this thing? All right.
I will say this. It's beautiful here. Big improvement from Britain, where it was snowing.
So snowing in London.
Yes.
And what is considered springtime there.
But what is springtime considered there? Because in the summer, it's not exactly blazing for, say, Wimbledon.
Well, no, because of where the country is located. But still, even though it's gotten pretty warm for Wimbledon the last few years, I know they've had to close the roof area a couple times just to.
Well, usually they close it for rain.
Yeah.
They're not closing it for heat. They're closing it for rain because you can't have a drop of water on
that grass,
or you might kind of wipe out. And even when it's dry, you wipe out. So that's what it is. But Jeff had quite an adventure, I'd say, over across the pond. But the one thing all you told me about while you were going there turned out to be the biggest bummer, disappointment ever. What happened?
Well, went over there among other things,
yes,
to see the Flight of the Conchords, one of my favorite. I don't think you call them a group. I guess you call it a comedy act.
An act,
yes.
I'd say, yes.
And they were starting their European tour the night we were going to, Sunday night. And my friend and I ended up showing up at the arena, the Eventum Apollo Theater in downtown London, and there was no one there except for a few cops.
So it was vacant.
Standing outside, and immediately our antenna went up, and we found out their entire first 2 months of their tour have been canceled because Brett McKenzie, as to put it in his words, had a very rock and roll accident and fell down a flight of stairs and broke 2 bones in his hand. And if you know the Flight of the Conchords, they play music. They play guitar, all kinds of different instruments. So he can't play, so therefore they can't have the show. It's very disappointing. But nevertheless, still a great trip to London. As I was mentioning before we went on air, I got a little sporting in. We went and watched England, Ireland in the Nations of Six Rugby Championship.
Does Clyde know what that is? Because everyone listening knows I would have no idea.
Of course I know what that is. Of course I know what that is.
Of course you know. Rugby. I'm all in on rugby. I know the ins and outs. I just know it's harder to throw a rugby ball than a football. It's bigger.
Yeah,
that's all I know.
It's bigger, and you don't technically throw it. You really almost underhand toss it. But
an underhand throw, same thing.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to get Clyde's thoughts on this because we were actually
Larry, be quiet.
In a rugby pub, and I got
trust me, I will.
I got into a huge debate. I don't know if you call it debate or argument.
Was it because you were a stupid American?
Actually, you're probably getting a bit to Banta. Like Banta, you can say Banta, and people don't want to beat you up.
So I was trying to argue that Mark Ingram or Leonard Fournette lesser so, but Darren Sproles, some of those guys would be hell on wheels in rugby, and the Brits that I was talking to, some of the Irish blokes, were arguing otherwise, saying that they would get destroyed because these guys are too big and too powerful.
I'm not surprised they would say that, and specifically, I'm not surprised that they would, because depending on if you're talking about rugby league or rugby union, because the two rules are a little bit different as opposed to how rugby league and rugby union starts.
Yes.
But I mean, that's the biggest thing about rugby sevens. I mean,
rugby league and rugby union. What the hell are we doing?
I got the lesson on that.
Okay, yeah, I would say because there's a difference. Because there's a difference in how and the northern and southern parts of the country and who plays what, and going back to amateur and professional. But that's the biggest thing about rugby sevens is that guys like Darren Sproles, Leonard Fournette, those guys would be absolutely fantastic for rugby sevens and rugby league, because there's not as much of a scrum as it is in rugby union. So like they'd be able to get some real good traction out wide when they get the ball out wide. So I think they would actually be pretty good at it.
That's what I thought. But anyway, nevertheless, I got a little sports in while I was over there. But it is good to be back on a lot of news.
You need to diversify your portfolio, bruh.
No, I don't. I tried watching LSU play Utah last night in the NIT.
That's not diversifying your portfolio, man.
Well, at some point, they were down so bad in the first quarter because they played quarters that they were on verge of losing by 84 points, but ended up not being that big of a victory for Utah. But Utah shot the lights out. LSU's basketball season is over. NIT, they're gone. UNO's basketball season went down on a buzzer beater to Campbell, so they're out of the CBI. So no more local ties in college basketball being played right now. So we'll talk a little bit about that on the show. But we've certainly got some news to be discussing. And top of the 11 o'clock hour, we're going to have two guests. Well, one followed by another, not both at the same time. We'll talk with former Saints defensive coordinator and interim head coach Rick Venturi. He's going to join us top of the 11 o'clock hour. We want to get his thoughts on the passing of Tom Benson. Of course, Jeff, that happened while you were traveling to London. And, of course, that's been the talk of the town. And the services begin tomorrow and will be Wednesday, Thursday, and the private funeral and mass will be Friday at St. Louis Cathedral. But the visitation's going to be open at the Notre Dame Seminary. That's on Carrollton. So we'll give you the latest on that. And then when you are talking Saints, we're also going to be talking free agency later on in hour number 2 with our good buddy, former colleague of NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, covers the Saints for ESPN. We'll talk with Mike Triplett. That will be around 11:30. So hour number 1, we'll have some time for your phone calls. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. And, Jeff, we've been talking a lot about free agency, of course. And this morning I published my 7 takeaways from basically the first 7 days of free agency at NOLA.com. And my lead item continues to be the lead item, Ndamukong Suh. Right now, according to Peter Schrager of the NFL Network, Ndamukong Suh will arrive at Rams headquarters later today. He'll meet with coaches there and then dine with Sean McVay and execs tonight. And Schrager saying that the strength and conditioning coach Ted Rath was with Suh in both Miami and Detroit, and they have a great relationship. And I think there's a reason, in my eyes, his little world tour started with the Saints is because Dan Campbell ended up becoming the interim head coach for the Dolphins while Suh was there. So there's some sort of connection there. But look, you could talk, and Jeff, I want to get your thoughts on this since we've been talking about it a lot. To me, it's definitely risk-reward with this guy. There's no doubt about it. His reputation precedes him. What is he looking for? This is his 3rd visit. He's visited the Saints. He's visited Tennessee. Now he's with the Rams. And the fact that he's gone on 2 visits and is on a 3rd, to me, either one side or the other or both have not come into a total agreement with what Suh wants to do, or do they want to have Suh in their locker room?
Well, don't you think that he's just doing his due diligence, trying to weigh every one of his options?
Well, if the Saints, you went on the first visit and you opened up the vault,
yeah,
I'm sure he takes it.
Yeah, I don't know what his motivation is. You read different things. It sounds like he's really interested in being in a good winning situation, but all 3 of those teams are kind of similar, right? They're all 3 playoff teams from a year ago. All 3 have supposed franchise quarterbacks in place.
Let's not say Jared Goff and Marcus Mariota are franchise quarterbacks.
They're their franchise quarterbacks.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay,
They've
yes.
dedicated or committed to those guys. So they're not out searching for, Josh McCown.
And everyone made the playoffs last year.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yes.
So they're all very similar in a lot of ways. I think it's going to come down to somebody that's going to make a connection with him. I'm a little curious, though, what the Rams are going to do with him. I mean, they've already got Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers. I don't know how you can convince him of his role. Both those guys are starting defensive tackles. You can't start 3 defensive tackles, can you? Not that I know of.
Probably not. It probably wouldn't be optimal unless you decided to, I don't know, move Brockers to the edge because Robert Quinn's gone. I don't know who they have on the edge right now. But, yeah, I'm curious. Also, I'm curious about the dynamic. Remember last offseason, Aaron Donald sat out. They didn't pay him. And so are you going to try to pay Ndamukong Suh and not pay Aaron Donald at this point? If you're going to pay Suh, you better damn well be paying Aaron Donald, which is a curious situation.
Well, I think Donald's the highest paid D tackle in the league, right?
Well, did he get it? He got a new deal?
Yeah, I thought he got it. I thought he got a deal last year. He got a franchise.
No, he didn't. No, I was actually reading a story yesterday
without a new deal.
Yeah, he actually, because that was a story. It was about how
I can read the headline right now
on
Pro Football Talk. If the Rams are flirting with Ndamukong Suh, when will they pay Aaron Donald? To me, I would certainly be wondering the same thing if I'm Aaron Donald, because you could argue he's the best defensive tackle or the best defensive player in all of the NFL right now. You can make that argument. So, but would they be?
He signed a deal 2018. I don't know what it was, but he says he signed it in 2018. I don't know. Anyway, point is, you're right, Larry. You're exactly right. He's either going to have to get a new deal from the Rams, or is going to either be underpaid because of the deal with the interest showing. I think Michael Brockers had one of his best years ever last year in L.A. I think it was like his best season as a pro. So, I mean, you're not going to bench him. I think the Saints have a compelling argument, but I would like to get your all's thoughts. I mean, do you all think he is going to replace Sheldon Rankins? Are they down on Sheldon Rankins?
I'm wondering what the motivation is there, too, because the reputation for Sue as far as what he's done lately for you, he's still been one of the best against the run. We had Doug Farrar on, who from Bleacher Report, and he's someone who studies the heck out of tape, and so we had him on Friday, and of course that's when the Sue visit started coming out, and he said he's still great against the run, but maybe not necessarily as much against the pass, so maybe you put him next to Sheldon Rankins, and you move Tyler Davison. I don't know, but I feel like all three of these teams feel like they're probably on the cusp, and that they're going to possibly take a shot at him.
Right.
So, and then as far as Aaron Donald's contract, he is on the
he's on his rookie deal.
He's on his rookie deal. He is on the 5th-year tender.
That's what it was.
Is what he is. He's on the 5th-year tender because it's his base salary, because there's no signing bonus attached. It's $6.8 million, or $6.9 million. So that's what it would be on the tender. Right.
So I'm curious. First of all, has anybody looked at tape of Sue in Miami? Like, I don't remember him dominating in Miami. I mean, I know everybody's all hot and bothered about him. He's got a big name, came with a huge reputation, but are we talking about a difference-making player here? I don't know. I'm not convinced of that, so I think the Saints are doing it right. Probably have a number they're willing to spend, but I would be very leery of bringing this guy in with the good locker room situation they have.
All right, let's take a break right here on the show. I know Cordell in Minnesota is on hold. You can get involved in the show, 504-260-1280. Let's take a break. When we get back, we'll get to Cordell, get to some more of your phone calls, and we'll go through some of the other free agent acquisitions and some of the comings and goings. And one person, and Clyde and I speak about him almost daily now because there's been nothing spoken too much about Kenny Vaccaro. Eric Reed is still out there. A lot of safeties are still out there, which is an interesting thing. And Kurt Coleman, you could argue, is not as good as all of these players, and he got taken off the block quick, which is certainly intriguing. So we'll talk about that. Plenty more to talk about. Cordell, Minnesota, hang tight. We'll get to you coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Josh Innes is moving to mornings.
I am.
We've ordered some extra strong coffee and took away his Bailey's Irish Cream. Josh Innes, morning 6 to 10.
You get the point on Sports 1280.
New Orleans.
The Troubadour Hotel New Orleans Tapestry Collection by Hilton, located in the New Orleans CBD, has luxurious finishes to complement the professional and an exquisite view of the New Orleans skyline for impressing clients and colleagues at the rooftop bar. Right now, the Troubadour Hotel is offering 1,000 Hilton Honors Points per night with their grand opening offer, valid now through April 30th. The Troubadour Hotel. Respite from the mundane. It's anything but generic. Visit them online today at thetroubadour.com.
Update your home indoors this spring and save big at Lowe's during our Spring Black Friday event. Because now you can update your flooring with fashionable wood look floor tile and save 10%. And get up to 30% off select appliance special values, including washers, dryers, refrigerators, and more. All projects have a starting point. Start with Lowe's. Flooring offer valid through March 28th. Appliance offer valid through March 21st. Exclusions apply. See store for details.
Don't miss your 15% off coupon today only at eBay. Celebrate the first day of spring with an extra 15% off everything. Yes, everything. Now's the time to shop with an extra 15% off already great prices on a wide selection of your favorite brands with free shipping. Shop eBay right now and start the season in style. Coupon valid today from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Time.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. Louisiana is more than just a place to visit. It's our way of life, and that means being outdoors. Join the nearly 2 million people who camped, biked, paddled, and hiked our state parks last year as we invite you to do the same. Every corner of Louisiana has something to offer. From the world-class fishing at Toledo Bend to paddling at Fontainebleau to exploring the ancient mounds at Poverty Point World Heritage Site. So fill up your car and staycation right here in our home, Louisiana.
In the next couple of weeks, Facebook will begin live streaming PC video games right in the newsfeed. They're also going to add a rewards feature that gives viewers free perks for watching, such as in-game equipment. The features will officially launch during the Paladins Premier League on March 24th. Mercedes-Benz is getting into the subscription business. The new service gives customers the ability to drive up to 12 new vehicles a year from the A, C, E, and S-Class families. Insurance, maintenance, and tires will all be included for up to 22,000 miles per year. When it comes time to swap into a new car, customers will make that request online via an app. No word yet on the cost. Cadillac, Volvo, and Porsche have all recently debuted their own subscription plans. Google Pay is jumping on the train in the desert. Riders will be able to board the Las Vegas monorail using the newly unified mobile payments app from Google. Google says more cities and transportation services are on the way. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Let's hit the phone lines. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's head up to Minnesota and talk with our buddy Cordell. Hey, Cordell. Thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Hey, man. Well, first of all, I just want to say it's spring. Today is the first day of spring, and I'm so excited because I'm driving through snow.
Oh, definitely springtime, yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally the weather I'm sure you're looking forward to.
Man, I'm telling you, man, it sucks. But, hey, guys, listen, I was just trying to get your opinion on something. I just want to know why is Ndamukong Suh a locker room issue? Because I never heard of him being disruptive in the locker room. Now, I have heard that he was a dirty player on the field, but from what I've been hearing, he's not a locker room issue. Like, he gets along with his teammates, as far as I've been hearing. And the last time he's been fined for being dirty was in 2014. So I was just wondering, will you guys have some kind of inside information on the type of player he was in the locker room? Like, he didn't get along with some of his teammates, or what?
Hey, Cordell, appreciate the phone call. Yeah, we'll give you some of those reasons. But as far as in Miami, basically, he was known as more of a divider. And I'd recommend going to check out a piece by Armando Salguero from the Miami Herald. And the headline of the column are the reasons the Miami Dolphins are expected to cut Ndamukong Suh beyond cap savings. And basically, he's part of some guys they wanted to unload to have a culture change in the locker room. They got rid of, was it Marcus Pouncey or Mike Pouncey? Maurice. Yeah. One of the Pouncey brothers who plays center in the NFL. But yes, I'll just say that, I'll just read some of what Armando said. The Dolphins have decided that the way to build a team is to, build a team. It's not about adding the most talented individuals with big contracts and biggest egos. It's not about adding players who are working on their brands. It's about the team. And basically saying the chemistry in the locker room was bad, calling it toxic even, and that Suh was part of the problem, and he was looking out more for himself than for others. And so basically trying to build his brand. And look, we had Josh Katzenstein on, who covers the Saints for us at NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Had him on last week to talk about Suh, and he covered him when he was in Detroit, and it was basically the same thing. So look, and say here's something else that Armando said, that who's the most prominent individualist on the Dolphins defense, and that it was Ndamukong Suh. also saying it's not right or fair to say Sue was a bad apple, but he was more at his core worried about Sue rather than the team. So the fact that that's out there, I'm sure that the Saints and other teams are trying to do their due diligence to make that. So that's where that's coming from. It's not necessarily somewhere he's getting in like fist fights in the locker room like some other former Saints players we've seen, but he is a guy that comes off to people in the locker room. He's a me guy, and if you're going to look for someone who's going to be a leader, even though he's a high-paid player easily on the team, this is his way.
And not to make light of the situation on the field, but there's more than enough tape on there of Ndamukong Suh being a little bit involved too much in extracurriculars after plays. I mean, we can go back to the Thanksgiving game where he blatantly stepped on an offensive lineman's arm and was smashing his head in the turf. I mean, let's not pretend that those things didn't happen. I mean, he goes all the way back to Nebraska as well. There's some questionable plays there. I remember specifically it was Missouri and Nebraska. It was in Columbia. And I think it was one of the last years before Missouri ended up leaving the Big 12 for the SEC. Trying to remember who the quarterback was at the time, but it was on a play. It was raining, heavy rain, so the conditions were already adverse, and there was a play where Suh went for the quarterback's ankle, and he was visibly injured. And then after that, there was 2-3 plays after that in the next offensive series. He was on the ground twisting this dude's ankle, and they caught it on video. So this isn't something that people are just making up about Suh on the field and some questionable plays. Like, this is now something that's dogged his career. And whether you call it him being a gamer or just playing until the whistle, there are definitely some questions that you have to ask when bringing him in the locker room.
And I think it says a lot about where the Saints feel like they are defensively, that they're willing to take a chance on bringing this guy in. There obviously is some concern about their run defense. Suh, his reputation is of a space eater inside, a guy that takes up blockers, frees up the linebackers. And we know in the past that's kind of been the role of Tyler Davison. They've got David Onyemata, a young developing prospect who they're very high on. Sheldon Rankins, a former first-round draft pick. But they clearly feel like they need to add to that part of the team. And if they're willing to take a chance on Suh and bring in this, and I agree, I think there's a lot of gray area with him. I don't think he's a bad apple, but you do introduce an element into the locker room, a very, I think, strong personality, even though he's introverted, that he's going to have a presence in there because he's a veteran player that does things his way. All of a sudden, you got a guy that, that Cam Jordan's got to bring in to the fold. And I think they're taking a slight risk there. They feel like the reward clearly, in their mind, is worth bringing him in. But I think it's always a red flag, Larry, Clyde, that you pay a guy like that much money that Miami did, and then you're just cutting him loose 3 years later. I don't know. I mean, I know they've got a coaching change there, but to me, that's a red flag.
And they're unloading all kinds of other players and not worrying about the ramifications as far as the salary cap. And, Jeff, you brought up Cam Jordan. I think that's a great point, that I think the people on defense in the Saints locker room and even upstairs, that's Cam Jordan's side of the football. That's a guy who they look to as their guy. That's the guy who's an all-pro now. He's an ascending player, and Ndamukong Suh has probably hit his apex and is never going to get better, at least I would think. And also, you look at the penalty situation, and Ndamukong Suh was the most penalized player for the Dolphins in 2017. He had 13 penalties. 6 were declined, but 13 penalties.
13, that's a lot.
13 for a defensive lineman?
That's a ton.
That is astronomical.
It really
you would
is.
assume that would be for a defensive back because you see, but no, 13 penalties as a defensive lineman. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I've got a little pause here. Put it this way. If they get Suh, I'm confident that Sean Payton, Dennis Allen, and that group can incorporate him in to being a productive player in the locker room. I don't think he's going to – I think the Saints have a strong enough locker room that he's not going to completely poison the waters. But if they don't get Suh, I would not throw a pity party. I think they're going to be fine if they don't get him. I know a lot of fans have their hopes up because he's got a big name. I wouldn't worry about it. If they get him, great. If they don't get him, they'll be just fine.
I think, though, fans, and let's take a break right here on the show, I think plenty enough fans are savvy enough to know when the locker room's bad, even though you've got a talented player, that this thing could go awry. And we've seen it in the last couple of years with the Saints. Now that you've got a good base and you've got good players on that side of the football, things can improve. And we've seen them already make some acquisitions. And you mentioned how they have 3 defensive tackles. They need a 4th. I mean, you need a 4th guy in there. So I think they certainly could use one. Should it be Sue? I'm with you. Tread lightly. They passed on Muhammad Wilkerson. He's in Green Bay, and I'm curious to see what happens with Sue. But let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, yesterday, Patrick Robinson and Demario Davis spoke with local media, and Patrick Robinson, Jeff, that happened while you were heading out.
Yes.
And so that's certainly something that seemingly came out of nowhere. And get your thoughts on that, and I'll say some quotes that he said yesterday. Look, if there's a guy, we're not supposed to root for guys. I'm rooting for this guy. I want him to come back here and succeed because he had a hell of a rookie run here during his few years with the Saints, and he is kind of career renaissance. So we'll talk about those signings and talk about what they had to say to the media in the next segment. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today we're going to start out partly to mostly cloudy. By midday, sunshine returns. A beautiful day expected. High in the upper 60s. Tonight, overnight lows going to be a bit cooler. Lower 40s on the North Shore, lower 50s south. And it looks like as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, high in the upper 60s to lower 70s. Overnight lows, 40s on the North Shore, 50s south. So it looks like a beautiful stretch of weather to wrap up the work week. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
The New Orleans Pelicans have the perfect way for you to do it big with your buds by scoring the Guys Night Out 6-pack presented by Loft 18. Packages are available for select Pelicans home games throughout the season and include 2 tickets, 4 beers, and a $20 gift certificate to Loft 18, your ultimate indoor golfing experience, all for as low as $50. Do it big with the next Guys Night Out 6-pack presented by Loft 18 on Thursday, March 22nd against the Los Angeles Lakers. Visit Pelicans.com to plan your Guys Night Out today.
Update your home indoors this spring and save big at Lowe's during our Spring Black Friday event. Because now you can update your flooring with fashionable wood look floor tile and save 10%. And get up to 30% off select appliance special values, including washers, dryers, refrigerators, and more. All projects have a starting point. Start with Lowe's. Flooring offer valid through March 28th. Appliance offer valid through March 21st. Exclusions apply. See store for details.
Don't miss your 15% off coupon today only at eBay. Celebrate the first day of spring with an extra 15% off everything. Yes, everything. Now's the time to shop with an extra 15% off already great prices on a wide selection of your favorite brands with free shipping. Shop eBay right now and start the season in style. Coupon valid today from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Time.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see you at practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. This your girl Cheeky Black, and you tuned in to Sports 1280 with Duncan Hold. You hear me? This your girl Cheeky. You better twerk something. Let me get that out there. Wobble, 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 wobble. Hammer that. Get it back.
Was that real life?
Yes.
Was that real life?
Yes.
Cheeky Black giving Duncan Holder a shout out.
We have arrived.
Wobble Wobble Wednesday on a Tuesday, apparently. Cheeky Black. Hello.
I can die happy.
I could certainly, man. That was teenage New Orleans rap bounce.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
fantastic. Dave, how did you score that? What happened?
She was in the studio, in the building yesterday, and she was talking with some folks over on Q93, and I heard her all the way across the building, and she was like doing like a demo or something. I forgot what it was, and I just hear across the building, "It's your girl, Cheeky Black." I'm like, no. I ran over there. I'm like, come here, get in the studio. I need a liner from you.
Yes.
So yeah, she was down.
Does she know that we play her music on Wobble Wobble Wednesday?
She was not aware, but I made her aware.
Now she's
good. You want to hear something even funnier? This was my reaction right after she cut it. Here, take a listen to this.
Hey, oh, my girl. Oh, I love it.
Dave's in love.
Love it.
Dave is in love. He's in awe.
I was, man. That was fun.
That's as if New Orleans native Stassi from Vanderpump Rules walked in. That would be my reaction.
Why do you ruin things with that? Why?
Because the LSU NIT game was so bad, guess what? I put on Vanderpump Rules. Boom. Came on at the same time. Couldn't watch it. So guess what? That's what I did. Sorry, Clyde. Sorry to ruin your hopes and dreams.
You do it daily.
I know. Actually, we're going to pivot. I said we were going to talk about Patrick Robinson and Demario Davis. We need to pivot because we're going to be talking a bunch of Saints in hour number 2. But look, Pelicans start their 3-game stretch tonight in the Smoothie King Center. Going to take on the Dallas Mavericks. Tomorrow they take on the Indiana Pacers in the infamous catch basin folly when the roof was leaking and they had to postpone the game. And then Thursday, they take on the Los Angeles Lakers. So 3 games in 3 days, 4 games in 5 days, because on Saturday they travel to Houston. And as we see, every game throughout the Western Conference matters at this point when you're only, 12 games left in the regular season and the standings have been so compact. And I don't know how this thing's going to end out or shake out, because you can look at it and say, all right, everyone who is 4 to 8, you feel like they're safe in the playoffs because, say, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're the 8th spot. They're 2 games above the Clippers and the Nuggets. But the Blazers are starting to kind of separate themselves. But if you're the Pelicans, you want to get at least in that 6th spot. And right now they are at number 7. They're tied with Utah, but Utah holds the tiebreaker above them right now. So if there's an important stretch of the season that we've ever seen, this is it. No doubt.
Man, Utah they quickly surged up into the standings, didn't they?
Well, you know how they won 10 in a row and they couldn't go anywhere? Teams had to finally come back down to earth. I think you're seeing teams like the Spurs, even though they've won 4 in a row, they still only won 5. They're 5-5 in their last 10. The T-Wolves are kind of going on a downslide. Denver has taken a dip, and so they're out. So it's taken some other teams, even though Utah kept winning, it's taken some other teams to fall back, and now Utah continues to win, and they're playing some of the best basketball in the NBA.
Yeah, 9-1 their last 10. The Trailblazers won 10. What? How many in a row?
13 in a row.
13 in a row, which I don't even know how they're getting it done.
Damian Lillard was named the Western Conference Player of the Week, I believe, earlier this week.
Probably not the first time he's won that award this year.
I think we all agree here. The Pels' goal should be clear. Just avoid the 7 or 8 seed. I mean, obviously your first goal is just to get in. But if you can avoid the 7 or 8 seed, avoid playing the Rockets or Warriors, I think their chances of playing with anybody else, I think all those other teams, you just throw them in a hat, and they can compete with anybody, home or on the road. I don't think Portland intimidates anybody, although it's a very tough place to play. You can go to Oklahoma City and win a series, or you can go to Portland and win that series. So I think the key goal is just to avoid the 7 or 8 seed. Right now they are 7th because of the tiebreaker you mentioned, Larry. But the T-Wolves, the T-Wolves, I'm not sure when Jimmy Butler comes back or if he does come back. I know he's been out for a while. They're a different team without him. He's their clear alpha dog. And but the Nuggets, Clippers are still hanging around. Well, there's like 12 games left in the season.
Yes.
2 games is pretty significant when there's only a 12-game body of work.
Yes, and I saw Will Guillory, of course, covers the Pelicans. I'm sure he will be on tomorrow, as he is every Wednesday. Tonight's slate of games has a bunch of Western Conference implications. I'm efforting to pull up his tweet right here. Of course, even though the Pelicans are taking on Dallas, it's still a Western Conference game. But here are the games tonight that are going to be happening. Pelicans, Mavericks. OKC is at Boston, so OKC has been playing well, but they're still at Boston. I don't know if Kyrie Irving's going to play. Clippers are at Minnesota. Atlanta's at Utah, you assume. Utah might win that game by 60. And the Rockets are at Portland. So the Rockets might be doing some people some favors if they can go into Portland. But I'm just going to assume right now 3 and 4 between Portland and OKC. And because, let's see, the Thunder are a game and a half above the Spurs, and they're 2 games up on Utah, and the Pelicans 2.5 up on the T-Wolves. So Blazers are starting to pull away. Thunder a little bit starting to pull away. But yeah, like when there are 12 games left, 2-game lead is a pretty decent cushion. You got to really, one team's got to surge and the other ones have really got to collapse.
And when the Pelicans have dropped 4 of their last 6, with the schedule coming up though, the only thing that's a little bit frightening about the rest of the way through is that if you don't count the teams that are currently out of it, so you're not talking about the Mavericks, the Clippers, the Lakers, and the Suns, you still got to go on the road to Houston. You've got to play Portland. You've got to go to Cleveland, play the Thunder, at the Warriors, and then your season finale is at home against the Spurs. That could be a game with huge implications, and it's not going to be easy. And after you've lost 4 of your last 6 and you've dropped down now to 4 games, all of these games are now doubly important because not only do the Pelicans have a chance to finish with a winning record if they can finagle at least 4 or 5 of these, but clearly every game in the standings is going to count against high-quality Western and Eastern Conference opponents.
How has Oklahoma City kind of turned things around? Remember, they told Carmelo to stop shooting. Is that what it was? Because all of a sudden, they've won 6 in a row. I think they've won like 9 or 10 of the last 12, and their only losses there were to Portland and Houston. So you're right, Larry, I think they're kind of almost cementing that 4 seed. I'll be surprised if they don't hang on and get that. Unless, of course, the Pels can go on a run here, but it just seems like they're treading water at this point. They are what they are.
The volume down, Carmelo. I guess that's what they've done. And old volume shooting Lord Jeff loves to talk about volume shooting. I've gotten on your train. That term is ridiculous. Anyone can be a volume shooter. Yesterday, and Clyde borderline agreed that Emeka Okafor, we should just let him be a volume shooter. Hey, right. If he shoots 30 shots a game, I bet you he might make 15.
I don't know about that, but sure, why not, man? Let's go with fantasy land with it.
Let's do it.
Which I think Russell Westbrook was also the Western Conference Player of the Month, if I remember correctly, because I think both those things came out recently. But, yeah, I mean, Oklahoma City has finally put it together of what we thought they were going to be at the start of the season. It just took them 2/3 of the way through to finally figure it out that Carmelo can't be a volume shooter. Russell Westbrook can still try to get a triple-double, but he's got to get his teammates involved. And then Paul George is still being Paul George. I mean, that's the thing. It was going to take all these guys working out and then getting guys like Steven Adams and all those guys finally involved. And Oklahoma City, to me, if they continue to play the way they play, because, I mean, I'm not still sure about Portland. I'm very sure about Dame Lillard, but I'm not sure about Portland. I think the most dangerous team going into the playoffs will be Oklahoma City.
Whoa. Hot take.
I think they will be the hottest team by the end of the year going into the playoffs that no one's going to want to see. Because they do provide a matchup problem.
Well, I'm just curious tonight if we see Sheikh Diallo just get a little crazy again.
Wakanda forever.
Yeah, I still don't know what that means.
I don't even know what is going on.
That's black.
We are not. I could officially say that we are in the minority because most people actually do know what that means, and we are definitely in the minority that we do not know what that means.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
I think everyone in humanity has seen that movie, and I haven't.
Yeah, because it's been number one for 6 weeks.
I know everyone in the world has seen it. Not Larry Holder.
$600 million
he watches,
in America alone.
He watches Vanderpump Rules and Real Road Rules Challenge and
so much junk. Wow.
And I don't know, spring training baseball. I think that's and tennis. That's my. That's
no
my
one
list.
cares about. Yeah, you're watching the BNP Paribas Open.
My man Juan Martín del Potro beat Federer in the finals.
That was big time. That was big time. He's pretty spicy. I like that guy.
Yeah, he's a grinder. Actually won a major once in life. So, all right, let's take a break right here on the show. Don't forget, top of the 11 o'clock hour, we will talk with former Saints defensive coordinator and former interim head coach Rick Venturi. We'll chat with him about his memories of Tom Benson, and then he's very close into following what's going on up in Indianapolis. We have not talked about at all on this show what the Jets have done to move up with the Colts, right?
Yes.
We'll talk with Rick Venturi about that and all the craziness of the Colts. And then 11:30, we'll talk with ESPN's Mike Triplett, all things Saints. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
You're invited to the Walton Johnson Crawfish Boil. March 31st. Starts about 2 in the afternoon at Southport Hall. Crawfish from NOLA boils. Music from Dr. Rock. More info at WRNO.com or Facebook.com/995 WRNO.
O'Reilly. Restore your vehicle's lost power by cleaning your entire fuel system with Chevron Techron Fuel System Cleaner. Right now, buy one bottle and get one free at O'Reilly Auto Parts, plus get double O Rewards points on your purchase. Keep your engine clean with Chevron Techron Fuel System Cleaner at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This is Smart Hacks for your smart speakers. I'm Stacey Walter. Did you know that Alexa will read bedtime stories to your child? Yeah, just say, Alexa, tell bedtime story to Billy, and you can both sit back until one of you falls asleep.
Once upon a time.
Alexa also connects you to your favorite live radio stations with iHeartRadio. Tell Alexa to play your favorite iHeartRadio station like this. Alexa, play iHeart 80s.
Playing iHeart 80s on iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio has all your favorite music and radio on your smart speaker. This has been Smart Hacks for your smart speakers.
When they say you'll never make it on your own, that's the time to really shine.
Like Camila Cabello, everyone loves a comeback. Now dry hair can have one too, with new Elvive Extraordinary Oil Hair Treatment from L'Oreal Paris. In just one use, Elvive revives dry hair, leaving it healthier, shinier, and 10 times more nourished. Revive dry hair with Elvive Extraordinary Oil Hair Treatment. Discover the complete line of Elvive hair care from L'Oreal Paris at your local retailer today.
Because you're worth it.
Actress Cynthia Nixon announcing she's running for governor of New York. The former Sex and the City star making the formal announcement on Twitter with a 2-minute video.
I love New York. I've never wanted to live anywhere else. But something has to change.
Nixon, a graduate of New York City Public Schools, says kids today don't have the same opportunities she's had and adds New York is the most unequal state in the country with incredible wealth and extreme poverty. America Ferrera and her husband Ryan Pierce Williams are expecting their first child later this year. The couple celebrating their baby shower in L.A. with their real-life families and Ferrera's co-stars from Ugly Betty and Superstore. As for how Superstore will handle the actress's pregnancy, producers are keeping tight-lipped about future plans for the storyline. Aretha Franklin is canceling 2 planned concert appearances on doctor's orders. Franklin will miss a scheduled March 25th concert in Newark, New Jersey, and an April 28th performance at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. Franklin's management releasing a statement saying doctors have ordered her to stay off the road and rest for at least the next 2 months. Last year, the Queen of Soul announced plans to retire, saying she would perform at some select events. Rod Stewart will substitute for Aretha Franklin at Jazz Fest.
You make me feel
That's entertainment. Jennifer Pulsoni, NBC News Radio.
I'm Tony Goldwyn. 20 years ago, when my mom had lung cancer, she didn't have many choices. But today, you do. If you've been diagnosed with lung cancer, please visit standuptocancer.org/lungcancer to learn more.
This is Duncan Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Hey, gotta give a shout out to Shotgun Offense on Twitter. Literally has 3 followers, following 37 people. Does not follow me, but I don't know. Decided to drop a little tidbit in my lap early this morning of a picture of Eric Decker and a flight itinerary that he was traveling to New Orleans, and I threw that out on Twitter basically saying scoop ? And what do you know? The Denver Post is confirming that former Titans wide receiver Eric Decker is going to visit the Saints. So they miss out on Jordy Nelson. They're certainly looking at wide receivers. They're letting Brandon Coleman walk, seemingly. We've heard nothing about him, so it looks like Eric Decker will be visiting the Saints at some point today.
I'm testing my pop culture knowledge. Do we go like date or marry?
No, he's married.
He's married to some country person, right?
Jesse James Decker.
Right.
Lovely woman. Fantastic. She's a very good singer. Yeah.
That's all you got? That's all you got for us?
I mean, that's all. I mean, she had really one hit single. I mean, hit I'm using very liberously here.
Okay.
So, but I mean, she's on reality TV. They've done reality TV, but she seems
didn't
nice.
they have like a show together?
Yeah.
They'll fit in well here. I mean, maybe we can get Clay Harbor.
Oh boy.
Jesse James along with Eric Decker. We'll get Glenn Pakalak to come back.
Jeff Charleston.
Let's just have an entire team of reality TV stars and see how they go. I would love that.
No one would watch.
Would be great column fodder for Larry and I.
You know who's the most anonymous of that group?
Summer months.
Jeff Charleston.
Oh my goodness.
The most anonymous of that group, hands down.
I'm going to do something to get Jeff Charleston on the show. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm going to call some people. Yeah, get him on the show, dude.
I'm good.
No one asked you.
Yes, they did. I'm good.
Dave
would be like, hey, guess who's on the line? I'd be like, I can't hear you, Dave.
Have we got any further information on Clay Harbor, the great Clay Harbor, and his bachelorette update, or should we not even expect any update until they... How does this thing work? Do they announce who's on the show?
Yeah, at some point I think they announce who's on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm eagerly awaiting, because it would be actually potentially the first minute of The Bachelor or Bachelorette that I've ever watched if Clay Harbor's on it.
So you've never watched any of the shows where they had like Aaron Rodgers' brother or Aaron Murray's brother? Or
Never watched 1 minute of that show.
Well, obviously you're not married.
I'm out of the loop.
Out of the loop, because that's why I've been sucked in too many times, but I don't watch it regularly. But anyway, let's move on from that. Jeff, some news about Steve Gleason. He is currently in the hospital. Jeff, what's kind of the latest you've gotten about that?
Well, it's good news. Steve is hoping to be released as early as tomorrow. They hope he can go home tomorrow. He's at Ochsner Medical Center. I talked to Paul Varisco, his father-in-law, and Paul said he was in really good spirits. Steve celebrated his 41st birthday last night, and they had a little party for him in the ICU room there at the hospital, and Paul was saying that they all crammed in. Those rooms at the ICU unit are small. You're only supposed to have like 2 people, 3 people in it, but they crammed a handful, several people in there and sang happy birthday to Steve. He was out of the bed. They got him up out. And if you've seen him lately, he's been sporting this beard, and he even shaved for the occasion to try and get cleaned up. And if you know Steve, the last place he wants to be ever is in a hospital. None of us want to be in the hospital, but Steve, as adventuresome as he is, he's just aggravated more than anything else. He had like some fever and some fluid in his lungs, which happens a lot for ALS patients, and they've got it on the road to recovery. He's feeling a lot better. He's in good spirits, and they're hoping he can get out. They actually almost sent him home yesterday, but they're hoping to get him out by tomorrow. So that's good news, and we wish him and everyone involved with Team Gleason the very best in his recovery.
Absolutely, yeah. So as we have any updates on that, we will certainly bring them your way, no doubt about it. But yeah, look, don't forget, a couple minutes, we're going to be talking with former Saints defensive coordinator and former interim head coach Rick Venturi. We're going to have his thoughts on the passing of Tom Benson. Of course, that is still an extremely fresh topic as far as being in town. And tomorrow, I think it's at 10 a.m., the visitation starts at Notre Dame Seminary. That will go on until 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. They will do it again on Thursday. That will be an abbreviated one. I think it's from, I'd like to say 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., and then they will have the funeral, which is a private funeral. That services will be predictably at St. Louis Cathedral. And Jeff, we'll go into this more in hour number 2, but look, your column, you touched on both sides of the coin. My column, I touched on both sides of the coin, and I think in this case, I still think people, even though it's been a couple of days since he's passed, I do think still people have some mixed feelings about him. Some people are certainly praising him, and there are others who are hesitant to praise the things he's done and just kind of leaning back on some of the things that happened before Hurricane Katrina and during Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, he's got a very complicated, complex legacy, and I think we spelled it out. I think everybody in New Orleans knows it, but certainly this was a huge story, and the future, I think, is a huge story for the New Orleans Saints and the New Orleans Pelicans. Where we go from here, because it's an end of an era.
Absolutely. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Rick Venturi coming up next. Around 11:30, we will talk with ESPN's Mike Triplett. So, any phone calls, if we got some open time, we'll squeeze them in. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
And data rates may apply.
Hi, I'm Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive. If you want to get back into shape, get Nugenics. All you have to do is send one simple text.
Frank's right. Just text RULE to 321-321 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Its unique man-boosting formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help a man feel stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate.
And guys, she'll like the difference too.
Nugenic samples are not available in stores. To get your complimentary bottle, text RULE to 321-321. That's RULE to 321-321.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
The new XFL has some competition. Charlie Ebersol and partner Bill Polian announced the launch of the Alliance of American Football. It's an 8-team league that'll launch its 12-week inaugural season February 9th, 2019. That is a week after the Super Bowl in February and a full year before the planned 2020 launch of Vince McMahon's new XFL. Charlie Ebersol on where you can find it.
On the Alliance app, we're going to be streaming games for free. Another evolution from the modern media experience. So games that aren't on CBS, the games that will be on our app are going to be free, and they're going to be fully integrated with fantasy. So you can play while you're watching.
News from Hoops. Trae Young is one and done. As expected, the Oklahoma Star freshman guard is leaving school to enter the NBA draft. Dodgers third baseman Justin Turner suffered a fractured wrist Monday night when he was hit by a pitch during a spring training game. I'm Deb Carson.
We are Your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword WIN
to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's WIN to 200-200.
Message and data rates may apply.
Hi, I'm Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive. You want to get back into shape? Get Nugenics. All you have to do is send one simple text.
Frank's right. Just text RULE to 321-321 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Its unique man-boosting formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help a man feel stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate.
And guys, she'll like the difference too.
Nugenic samples are not available in stores. To get your complimentary bottle, text RULE to 321-321. That's RULE to 321-321.
You know, before Boost, our phone bill was obscene. I had to hide it from the kids. So we switched to Boost and got lines for the whole family with unlimited gigs for a much more family-friendly price. It's nice to have a phone bill that doesn't require parental controls.
Your family deserves better than scary phone bills. Get 4 lines for only $25 per line, each with unlimited gigs. Plus, get up to 4 free Samsung J7 perks with 6 months of Hulu where you can stream all the shows everyone is talking about. All on the super reliable and super fast nationwide network. Boost makes it easy to switch. Switching makes it easy to save.
Offer ends 4/16/18. First lines $100 a month. Lines 2 to 4 free. Requires 1 line to port in. Includes unlimited talk, text, and data with video streams at up to 480p. Music at up to 500 kilobits per second. Gaming up to 2 megabits per second. Data deprioritization during congestion. Free phones require port-in, purchase of eligible device, and activation on plans $50 or higher. Includes 6 months of access to 1 Hulu limited commercials plan per eligible line for new Hulu subscribers only. Additional restrictions apply. Terms at www.boostmobile.com/Hulu-terms. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
The New Orleans Pelicans have the perfect way for you to do it big with your buds by scoring the Guys Night Out 6-pack presented by Loft 18. Packages are available for select Pelicans home games throughout the season and include 2 tickets, 4 beers, and a $20 gift certificate to Loft 18, your ultimate indoor golfing experience, all for as low as $50. Do it big with the next Guys Night Out 6-pack presented by Loft 18 on Thursday, March 22nd against the Los Angeles Lakers. Visit Pelicans.com to plan your Guys Night Out today.
In the next couple of weeks, Facebook will begin live streaming PC video games right in the newsfeed. They're also going to add a rewards feature that gives viewers free perks for watching, such as in-game equipment. The features will officially launch during the Paladins Premier League on March 24th. Mercedes-Benz is getting into the subscription business. The new service gives customers the ability to drive up to 12 new vehicles a year from the A, C, E, and S-Class families. Insurance, maintenance, and tires will all be included for up to 22,000 miles per year. When it comes time to swap into a new car, customers will make that request online via an app. No word yet on the cost. Cadillac, Volvo, and Porsche have all recently debuted their own subscription plans. Google Pay is jumping on the train in the desert. Riders will be able to board the Las Vegas monorail using the newly unified mobile payments app from Google. Google says more cities and transportation services are on the way. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
Duncan Holder, hour number 2 on a Tuesday, March 20th. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier. We're all here at iHeart Central. If you missed any of hour number 1, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube page, and Clyde will have our updates later on today on NOLA.com. And pleased to be joined by former defensive coordinator for the Saints, former interim head coach for the Saints, and it's something when you could be under 3 tenures as an assistant coach with one team. That doesn't happen very much too often anymore, but pleased to be joined by Rick Venturi. Hey, Rick, appreciate you jumping on the show, and of course, a big topic here in New Orleans is the passing of Tom Benson. I know Jeff reached out to you yesterday, and it's as far as what he's done for this city and for this team. What is kind of your reflection on the time that you were able to spend working under Tom Benson for so many years here in New Orleans?
Well, he really meant the world to me and to my career. I came to New Orleans really in a tough situation after the Cleveland move. We had gone really good and then really bad, and it was bad, both team-wise and personally. And so New Orleans, I always consider my resurrection point. And, becoming the interim coach after 8 games, I really didn't know him. He didn't know me. So it was an interesting beginning. I instinctively realized from the beginning, my father raised me to be a people person, and I instinctively realized that Tom was really all New Orleans, and he was a guy of old New Orleans where you did business man to man, and not through emails and not through notes, but you did things man to man, and I made it a point to sit with him every single day when I became the head coach. And I did that for a lot of reasons. Most of the time, I was the listener. Most of the time, I listened to him and his opinions and his stories. But he gave me the avenue or the venue that when we did need something, and I realized you just couldn't walk in there cold and get something like that. So it started off really good. He was a financial genius. He's a demanding CEO now in every way. There isn't any question. You don't get successful, unless you are. I've said it before. He really, his life epitomized the American dream. I mean, he was after bookkeeping in New Orleans. He and Mr. Gold were selling Chevys out of a tent in the mid-'50s. I actually went on a trip with him personally to San Antonio for a ribbon cutting scenario, and we talked for hours. And he explained to me their beginnings and how they got going. And Miss Grace at that time used to just laugh because she realized that the Saints were being run exactly like the Chevrolet dealership in '54. But he was great to me throughout the 10 years, wonderful years I was there. He always treated Miss Sherry and I as a family. Miss Sherry's Italian, but I always felt like he just thought she was Cajun because she had that fire. And we got along really good, and we had a special relationship, really probably more so than any normal assistant for a full 10 years.
Rick, and one of the things I pointed out in my, my column about Mr. Benson was the fact that, he raised the bar and the standard of the organization when he came in. He immediately hired Jim Finks and Jim Mora and immediately turned around the fortunes where the Saints used to be kind of a laughing stock under John Meekum. They were always part of the football follies, NFL films. And since then, except for a few years there, the forgettable Ditka years.
Right.
But when you were a part of Haz's staff with Randy Mueller, since then, I think one of the most remarkable things, since that era, 2000 on, other than the Katrina season, which I think is completely understandable and forgivable considering the circumstances, this organization's never been worse than 7-9. And look, you've competed in the NFL a long time. It's hard to be relevant every year. And when the worst you are is 7-9, that's pretty darn good over 2 decades.
Yeah, there's no question about that, and I think you're exactly right, and I don't want to make excuses, but I do think the Katrina season was an outlier. I mean, Jim really, other than that, had one losing season. And Tom's strength was Tom really didn't know football, and I think he learned to know football, and I hope in some ways I educated him because we used to talk every day. But he knew people, and he knew success, and he demanded success. And so really when you look at that hiring, and the whole thing started with Finks and Moore, there's no question about it, and particularly with Finks because, he gave him the keys to the kingdom, and Jim Finks is as good as has ever lived. Jim's a great coach. He went on and on. The interesting thing is I went through the Mora, Ditka, Hazlitt era, and the irony of that was the one thing that didn't work out was the Ditka situation. And I like Mike immensely. I love him as a man. But, it just wasn't the right thing to do, and that's not what Tom was going to do. When Jim left, And basically, I always remember a little story. He sat down with me, and he showed me the organizational chart of the Colts. It was just, right from him, right down through the GM, through Bill Kuharich, through the coach. I mean, it was the whole operation. And then he took it aside, and then he showed me a blank one with his name on top. And this was after the season when I was, still hanging on there. And he said, this is what I'm going to do. I mean, he was going to really blow it up. And then I think Bill Kuharich and the governor and other people thought that, he could salvage it with Mike. And Mike had just been out of it for a long time. He wasn't surrounded by a really good cast. And so, you had that lull, you had that hiccup. But then Jim came in and did a fantastic job in the beginning. I mean, he and Randy Mueller, it was amazing what they were able to do in that first year, after being 3-13 or whatever we were. Then we stumbled. And then, of course, bringing in Sean, elevating Mickey, and then, of course, the Drew Brees thing. And that was a little bit lucky and a little bit smart. But ever since Drew's been there, I mean, and Sean is a great offensive football coach. And you put those two guys together, I don't think they've ever been lower than 5th offensively in the National Football. I always said if Drew Brees would have come a year early, I still might be eating catfish at Mittendorf's. But, there's no question about that. What has changed the Saints, I think, is, because there was a lull with the 3-7 and 9s, there was a lull, still really good offensively, but they, kind of lost their way personnel-wise, which franchises do. The Colts are going through that right now. But they've been able to really shore that up. Then I think they had a series of quirky defensive coordinators. I'm not saying good coaches, bad coaches, but quirky guys. And I think the hiring of Allen, myself personally, has been the best thing that they've done. It's been one of the quietest great hires in the National Football League. Because I always said in the past 3 years, looking at it from a distance, is that if the Colts can just be respectable on defense, with that offense power and the coaching, there'll be a team that can win a Super Bowl. And so, I mean, all those things have happened. But Tom just, in his great business and his demanding, I mean, you're not, like with Jim, they got into it in San Antonio, and Jim made some demands, and Tom just said, we're going on. We are going on. And he was never afraid to do that. But I think basically he let his people work. Even though he may be tough and have some strong opinions, he let his people work. And so, I think that was a great strength of his.
Well, Rick, you've coached all over the league. You've been, of course, involved with Indianapolis for a while now. But I'm curious, as you look back on your tenure, and you had a long tenure down here in New Orleans, you're kidding about eating at Middendorf's, but I know you appreciated the culture. What makes you, New Orleans and the Saints, the connection, maybe so unique in the NFL?
Well, no, it's very unique. New Orleans is a very unique place. It's, I like I said, if it would have been up to me, if there wouldn't have been any other circumstances, New Orleans would have become my personal home. There's no question about it. Sherry and I love it. We miss it to this day. There's a culture to it that is amazing. It's a culture of great people who have commonalities in many different ways. Not just football, but football is one of them. It is, and there is a tremendous relationship with the team. Even when there are upsets and losses, they're still Saints fans. You don't have people creeping in there. It's just a great place, and to see that comeback and that win and the Steve Gleason block, all those things, because there's a ton of Saint in me to this day. I'm going to tell you, when that last play was scored in that Minnesota game, I was as sick on, you can ask my wife, I was as sick on that play as I've been since my coaching days. I'll be honest with you. And it took me about a week to recover, because I felt like that the Saints, with Brees, with Sean, and that defense that was coming, was the one team that could actually beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but inevitably Philadelphia did. But at the time, I thought that the only team that could do it would be the Saints.
Well, Rick, give everybody, of course, a lot of fans here remember you during your time here, and let everybody know what you're doing now. And I asked you, I kidded you yesterday, but you're still riding your bike. That's one of the memories I have of you, always coming into the Saints practice facility on that bike. And I thought you might give it up as you got a little older, but I guess not.
Well, I can't give it up. You know, I got a philosophy about aging, and it's aging is a process. Getting old is in your mind. So I'm never going to let that happen. And I ride that bike every time I can, and that's why I come down to Florida for a few months in the winter. And because Indianapolis is not exactly New Orleans in the wintertime. So, but I ride them. I have 2 or 3. I ride them all the time. I never lose it. I've really now established a second career. When it ended in St. Louis, I was toast, to be honest with you, mentally. I had 27 straight in the NFL. It didn't end pretty. I was going to retire for a year and then make a comeback. But in the meantime, I got really bored. I couldn't do it. And I started doing radio and started radio in St. Louis, and then it became radio and television. And now in Indianapolis, I do an 8-month-year contract. So I have 4 months to myself, but I do 4-hour shows a week on the radio from training camp until the Super Bowl. I do the color on the Saint. Oh no, I'm sorry. I do that all the time back there, and they give me on the Colts. I do the color on the Colts preseason television games, and I have my own TV show every Sunday morning, in which is a really hard hitting football, X and O football show, and I do that. That appears every Sunday morning. So, like I said, it went from something to stay busy and dabble with to a really full-time career, Jeff.
Rick Venturi joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. You mentioned Indianapolis. I think you've had plenty of things to talk about the Colts this offseason with the coaching chaos and now the trade with the Jets. Just what do you make of the coaching chaos and what they've been doing, and, of course, the recent trade where now the Jets have the number 3 pick and the Colts have moved down?
Well, I think, first of all, the coaching staff, I think they lucked out. I think they were going to hire McDaniels. They were enamored with him. I never was, because I had been in St. Louis when he was the offensive coordinator. I was never enamored with it. He backed out of it, and they had a little embarrassment for 24 hours. Sometimes you're saved by the move you don't make. I think bringing in Frank, who has a Colt background, who comes off of a hot Philly concept, is actually a plus. I think they lucked into that. The key things with them is, first of all, the health of Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck drives this franchise. Andrew Luck carried this franchise from 2012 to the AFC Championship game in 2014, and he did it without much supporting cast. Since that height where they got blown out by the Patriots in January of 14, there's been a lot of things. He's missed a lot of games with injuries. Eventually, it took its toll, not supporting him. Their roster, instead of building it, really took a nosedive. They just made a lot of misses in top drafting and top free agents. They just, they were aggressive, but they just evaluated poorly and ended up with a lot of minuses. So the questions are Luck, obviously, number one, and then a diminished roster. That's why they've fallen off the charts in the last 3 years from a franchise that was 14 playoff teams out of 16. The trade is a no-brainer. I mean, they're going to move back to 6. They're not interested in a quarterback. There's going to be 3 quarterbacks probably go. So with the 6th pick, you're probably going to get one of the 2 guys that you were going to take at 3. So, I mean, that was a no-brainer. Plus, you pick up 2 really high 2s. They now have 5 picks in the top 67 players. So the biggest problem that I have is they just really are hesitant to work in the free agent market. They kind of have that philosophy that you can build through the draft. And I've always said, if you think you can only build through the draft, you need a 25-year contract. And Jacksonville right now in our division is probably the state-of-the-art team that has utilized very high draft picks and hit on them, and then have really signed some impact free agents. And they kind of, to me, are the poster child for what you really have to be. So, time will tell. It's amazing that 2 years ago, Jim Irsay, who I'm very close to, was talking about multiple Lombardis, and now the word is trust the process. So we've sunk a little bit in the last 2 years.
Rick Venturi, right here on Duncan Holder. Rick, great insight. We really appreciate you jumping on the show, and we'd love to have you jump on here at some point down the line.
Absolutely, guys. Give everyone my best there, and certainly my concerns for Tom. As I said the other day to Jeff, the heavens open, so the boss saint comes marching in or boogieing in, whatever you want to say.
Definitely boogieing, there's no doubt. I've seen him boogie more footage of boogieing the last week than I can even recall. So, Rick, great stuff. Absolutely appreciate the time.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, let's
Thank you, guys.
Yep, you got it. Let's take a break right here on the show. Just when the Eric Decker era was going to begin with the Saints, it's already over.
We have a sad trombone.
I probably started this firestorm, and you did. I didn't report it. I just said, hey, someone look into this. Someone tried to and screwed up, and at least it wasn't me. So, all right, we'll give you that news coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them
With up to 16 chances a day, every weekday to win $1,000. A smart move would be to listen.
I'm a smart speaker, and I agree.
The keyword to text and win comes at the top of the hour.
The smart money is on.
Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Message and data rates may apply.
Hi, I'm Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive. You want to get back into shape? Get Nugenics. All you have to do is send one simple text.
Frank's right. Just text RULE to 321-321 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Its unique man-boosting formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help a man feel stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate.
And guys, she'll like the difference too.
Nugenic samples are not available in stores. To get your complimentary bottle, text RULE to 321-321. That's RULE to 321-321.
On Saturday, March 24th, New Orleans City Park will host the 71st annual Big Bass Rodeo and Fishable, the oldest freshwater fishing rodeo in the country. There is something for the whole family with live music, a kids area with casting lessons, a fishing gear raffle, and educational exhibits. To learn more about these events, rules, and registration, please visit BigBassFishingRodeo.com. That's BigBassFishingRodeo.com. Events and activities run from 6 a.m. to noon on March 24th for the Big Bass Fishing Rodeo.
Here's today's tax tip. It's tax season, and that means the Internal Revenue Service is going to be conducting audits. Enrolled agent Brian Lake says oftentimes audits can be pretty easy to get through with the right documentation.
If your return is selected for examination, it doesn't necessarily mean that you made an error or that you're dishonest. Returns are generally they're chosen by a computerized screening process or by random sample.
An audit is when the IRS examines an organization's or an individual's accounts and financial information to make sure that everything is accurate. Many people assume that an audit means they've done something wrong, but this isn't the case. Oftentimes, the IRS uses random selection to pick a candidate for an audit. Small businesses, however, are more likely to be selected than an individual consumer. If your tax return is more complex, it has a greater chance of being audited. And once someone is selected, they'll be notified via mail or telephone. Less than 1 out of every 100 tax returns is audited. That's today's tax tip from NBC News Radio. I'm Mark Mayfield.
This is Duncan Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Yeah, maybe I started a little firestorm here. Maybe.
Stirring the pot, as usual.
Look, all I did was put out a picture of Eric Decker headed to New Orleans. That's probably accurate.
Crawfishing over here. You notice this, Clyde?
I never acknowledged. I never reported any of this stuff. I just put one word with a question mark. Scoop. And so then someone took off with it. Denver Post reported
fishing,
that.
just like you did at the Troubadour Hotel. Trawling for it. Trawling for junk.
Man.
So what's the update?
Eric Decker could easily be visiting New Orleans, but he's not visiting with the Saints. And Sean Payton went to Twitter and called the report and called out the reporter and said bad sources. And then she says that, well, if my sources are bad, sorry. And he says, all good. Take out the word if. Woo! Savage.
Harsh.
Spicy.
Savage.
I was just saying, someone look into this. Scoop. That's all I did.
Maybe
so don't blame me.
Maybe he is. Maybe we can get into semantics here. Maybe he is visiting New Orleans.
That's my whole point. Because I had someone literally tweet me saying,
so he's not wrong.
He checked in to a hotel. A friend of his checked him into a hotel downtown. So he could easily be here.
Well,
he's
guys,
just not visiting with the Saints.
Let's not forget, it is spring break season. #spring break.
I mean, the guy's in his 30s. He's not coming down for spring break.
Well, you don't know that. I'm going to look
break. He should go to Club La Vila.
I'm going to go and see
Panama City.
if Jesse James Decker has tweeted something, and then I'm going to get back to y'all. So give me a second.
Okay. Well, that certainly would be up Clyde's alley, so he could find that. So yeah, just as fast as you thought the Eric Decker era would begin, it's not going anywhere. But enjoy New Orleans if you're here, if you're listening.
Yeah, if anybody has any more updates on Eric Decker around town, send them to Duncan Holder at Duncan Holder.
Oh yeah,
we get it updated.
We need to have them.
We see any sightings of Jesse James. She hasn't tweeted since yesterday about something at a country station, so nothing there, unfortunately. I'm going to check her Instagram.
Well, is she coming to our country station here in our building?
I mean, she could. We have a country station.
Exactly.
Yeah.
WNOE, man. We could.
Yeah, she could have brought her. So yeah, absolutely.
She could
come on Country Fried Friday and visit with us.
She may be able to do that.
Yeah.
Let's see if we could swing that.
Hey, quick update. I don't want to interject, but from the Zurich Classic, we have a new commitment. Justin Rose and Heinrich Stenson, who played together last year, are back. I mean, Justin Rose, I think, just had a top 5 or 10 finish this past weekend.
So did Stenson.
Henrik Stenson, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that's a huge get. I mean, Justin Rose, if you ever dealt with him, I mean, he is class act. I mean, absolutely one of the best people to deal with on the PGA Tour, and also a great player. So I'm very excited about getting him back here, as I'm sure most New Orleans golf fans are.
Now that Tiger Woods is starting to put it back together, you know that the peeps at Zurich Classic are trying their hardest to get him to get over here.
It's good. It's setting up for an incredible Masters tournament here in a couple weeks. With the way Tiger's coming on, the fact that Rory McIlroy just won his first tournament in a while, and then you've got this army, of course, of great young golfers that have kind of made their mark over the last year or so. Man, this is going to be one of the best Masters, I think, that we've had, at least most anticipated Masters we've had in a while.
I'd totally agree, because even though Jordan Spieth is a great story and fantastic golfer, golf needs Tiger, and Tiger's getting back in the mix of things. So interesting. All right, let's take a break right here on the show, because when we get back, we will talk Saints with good buddy Mike Triplett of ESPN. And guess where Eric Decker is set to visit today, apparently. What is going on here? The Eric Decker beat, according to Vic Taper of The Athletic, is learning wide receiver Eric Decker is coming in for a visit with the Raiders today. What? I give up. That was the most short-lived panic ever. So, good job. There we go.
And a caller who we unfortunately forgot about.
Yes, we forgot about it. Sorry.
He sent his question in on Twitter, so I have that, and we'll talk about it after Triplett.
Beautiful. Absolutely. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. Mike Triplett next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeart Radio app. Duncan Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today we're going to start out partly to mostly cloudy. By midday, sunshine returns. A beautiful day expected. High in the upper 60s. Tonight, overnight lows going to be a bit cooler. Lower 40s on the North Shore, lower 50s south. And it looks like as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, high in the upper 60s to lower 70s. Overnight lows, 40s on the North Shore, 50s south. So it looks like a beautiful stretch of weather to wrap up the work week. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America invites you to take steps for cures at a walk near you. Support the 1.6 million Americans living with these diseases. Get started at cctakesteps.org.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Paid for by Open Jar. Attention current or retired railroad employees. If you or a loved one worked for the railroad and were diagnosed with any form of cancer, call the Railroad Employee Cancer Helpline now. You may be entitled to significant compensation. Exposure to benzene, asbestos, chemical solvents, and welding fumes can all cause cancer and are commonly found in the railroad work environment. Federal law allows employees to sue a railroad company if their injuries were caused by or contributed from the company's negligence. Injured employees can recover compensation costs for medical treatment and for the employee's lost income due to their injuries. If you or a loved one worked for the railroad and then developed cancer, call the Railroad Employee Cancer Helpline at 800-590-8915. Our network of attorneys have years of experience fighting for their clients' rights, and they're ready to fight for you. Time to file a claim is limited, so call now. 800-590-8915. That's 800-590-8915. 800-590-8915.
You know, before Boost, our phone bill was obscene. I had to hide it from the kids. So, we switched to Boost and got lines for the whole family with unlimited gigs for a much more family-friendly price. It's nice to have a phone bill that doesn't require parental controls.
Your family deserves better than scary phone bills. Get 4 lines for only $25 per line, each with unlimited gigs. Plus, get up to 4 free Samsung J7 perks with 6 months of Hulu, where you can stream all the shows everyone is talking about. All on the super reliable and super fast nationwide network. Boost makes it easy to switch. Switching makes it easy to save.
Offer ends 4/16/18. First line's $100 a month. Lines 2 to 4 free. Requires 1 line to port in. Includes unlimited talk, text, and data with video streams at up to 480p. Music at up to 500 kilobits per second. Gaming up to 2 megabits per second. Data deprioritization during congestion. Free phones require port-in, purchase of eligible device, and activation on plans $50 or higher. Includes 6 months of access to 1 Hulu limited commercial plan per eligible line for new Hulu subscribers only. Additional restrictions apply. Terms at www.boostmobile.com/Hulu-terms. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
Your home for home team talk. Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Here to talk about the Eric Decker era here in New Orleans is old Mike Triplett of ESPN. How's it going, Mike?
My sources confirm that he has been on an airplane. But apparently he will not be playing for the Saints.
Or is he even in town? I don't really even know. But hey, Jeff and Clyde over here trying to throw me under the bus. I just put scoop question mark. I was like, someone find out about this. Go for it. And he never played here and may never play here again. So, Mike, appreciate you jumping on the show. Saints have certainly been active in free agency, and the big question mark right now is Ndamukong Suh. Visited the Saints, visited the Titans, and is reportedly visiting with the Rams. Your thoughts on a potential union with Suh?
Man, it's the toughest question in free agency always, right? I mean, he's one of probably the 5 best players that are going to switch teams this year. There's no doubt the Saints would be better with Ndamukong Suh in the middle of their defensive line than without him. And let's say he goes to the Rams. Now one of their biggest rivals in the NFC is going to be better and just completely loaded on defense. So you'd love to say, yeah, bring him on. The Saints are ready to strike now and try to win a Super Bowl. And a pass rush up front, an improved pass rush, a more disruptive pass rush is their number one need going into free agency. So I'd be willing to embrace the move, and I like the way that they're going about it. They did not, fly him in on a private plane, bring the entire team in, and throw a bunch of money at him. They sat and talked to him. It was described as much as them feeling out how well he'd fit as selling him on how well the Saints would fit for him. And it seems like, they're going to, if they even make him an offer, it'll probably be a measured offer. They let him go leave and visit other teams. So, they're being smart but aggressive, and that's why they wanted Jimmy Graham, but they had a dollar figure they didn't want to go above, and they let him get away. They visited Muhammad Wilkerson, but they let him get away. So, it's not a no-brainer to just throw $12, $13 million at a guy who obviously did not turn things around for for the Miami Dolphins. He would fit really well, but obviously there's got to be a line where they don't want to go past.
Trip, how do we view the interest in Ndamukong Suh in relation or in regard to the Saints' feelings about, say, Sheldon Rankins or David Onyemata, Tyler Davis? I mean, how do you view that?
Well, I think clearly they think a rotation, there's room for a rotation at that position. I mean, they've long believed that some guys, 25, 30 snaps is the best way to use them and get the most out of them at the defensive tackle position. And remember, when they loved Sheldon Rankins last year, they spent 4 years, $28 million to re-sign Nick Fairley before finding out about his heart condition. So they wanted to go into last year with that rotation at defensive tackle too, and wound up being thinner than they wanted to be. And then free agency comes along, and they've now visited with Muhammad Wilkerson and Ndamukong Suh. So you can tell that is obviously a big priority for this team to have multiple pass rushers on the interior. And we've seen a lot of good teams in the NFL who have that. And don't have to look far. The Carolina Panthers' defensive dominance over the last 5-6 years has been because they're just overloaded with defensive tackles. So that's I'm more curious about how overloaded they've become at inside linebacker, because inside linebacker leaves the field on passing downs. But defensive tackle, you can have 2 or 3 or 4 of them and find ways to rotate them all into the mix.
Mike Triplett of ESPN joining us right here on Dunc and Holder, and you mentioned inside linebacker, and I noticed you had to do some grading of some free agents, and Demario Davis received a C- from one Michael Triplett. Just what are your thoughts on that? And like you said, it's crowded at inside linebacker now.
Well, look, I'm going to get killed for this. It's probably the worst take I've ever had, because
stick by it, man. Let's do it.
He's probably going to be really good for the Saints. I mean, there's a good chance he will be there, but he should be their best linebacker this year. There's a good chance he'll play that middle linebacker position better than it's been played in 4 or 5 years. And so he'll have a great season, and everybody will see, you thought this guy should be Duncan. That's not my point at all. I gave it a low grade because for 2 reasons. One, maybe it's retroactively giving a low grade to A.J. Klein signing last year, but they play the exact same position. And you could move A.J. Klein over to Sam, which he already was playing on base downs anyway, but the Sam linebacker leaves the field on passing downs. So, and then you only have 2 linebackers on the field. If Davis and Klein are your 2 linebackers on passing downs, that's not great. That's not either one of their specialty. There's absolutely no room for Manti Te'o then. I was very surprised that they have invested so heavily in 3 veteran inside linebackers, and they've got Craig Robertson, who's an inside linebacker. So they've just spent a lot of money on that one position. Demario Davis might well be the best of all of them, but I'm curious now. Does this mean A.J. Klein becomes a part-time player? Does this mean Manti Te'o is inactive on game days or doesn't make the team? Obviously, you need depth, but they've loaded up at a position that is, that is surprising that they made it a priority. And then the other thing is just the value of that contract. I didn't see anybody writing, including Jets reporters, that Demario Davis is going to be in the neighborhood of $8 million a year. I think reportedly the Jets saw him as a $3 to $4 million a year linebacker, and they let him go after he had a great season there. So they didn't get a bargain on it either. But, I'm still going to backtrack and say he'll probably be very good for the Saints. It just wasn't a great value deal for them.
Tripp, you mentioned the need to kind of bolster or at least supplement the pass rush that the Saints made improvements on a year ago. And I'm with you. I think it's definitely atop their off-season priority list. The question I have is, where do you get it? Where does it come from? What do you think? I mean, where are they going to find help there?
No, it's a great question, and you certainly can't count on it in the draft because you have the 27th pick in round 1, and then you have no second-round pick. And defensive end is not traditionally a position where you find a lot of guys in the middle rounds who can help. Look, Alex Okafor was a huge signing. It was absolutely vital. We don't know anything about his Achilles and how well he'll be able to recover from it and how well he's doing in his rehab. But, just the fact that the Saints, who, are more privy to all that information than we are, that they re-signed him and did not sign a different defensive end instead, lets you know that they seem to have confidence. if you tell me that Alex Okafor is healthy and he plays at the level he played at last year, then I feel really comfortable about that position. Trey Hendrickson, I think, has some potential as a second-year pro who can come off the bench and give you some, passing down snaps. And George Johnson was a solid veteran for them last year, as long as Alex Okafor is playing 80% of those snaps like he did last year. If Okafor is not, then it's a huge glaring hole. And, yeah, there is not help to be found in free agency, and you cannot count on immediate help. So they'll without Okafor, they'd have to patch it together like we've seen for the last 3-4 years.
Mike Triplett of ESPN joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Mike, we have covered the trials and tribulations of one Patrick Robinson, and we've seen some high notes, plenty of low notes, and then he leaves, goes through a couple of teams, career renaissance in 1 year in Philadelphia, and he's back in New Orleans, and I thought it was very honest, and we've known Patrick Robinson to be brutally honest about himself, and that he certainly, when he was posed a question, did you think about what happened the last time you were here in New Orleans and now you're back? And he said yes. I mean, what do you make of that signing and just the path he's made his way back here to New Orleans?
Well, look, I was the one who asked him that question. The way I worded it is, look, it was obvious how much a change of scenery meant to your career and how important the change of scenery was for you. So what led you to come back? Did you feel like you had unfinished business? And, he just feels like he says he's kind of learned, what was his exact wording? He knows what it takes now. I think he realizes what he was doing wrong before and what he can do well now. And I'm sure at age 30, it's obviously true in his play that he's kind of developed that confidence that wasn't always there with him. And as he said, he used to be thinking too much about everything that could go wrong, and now he's just playing football. And then also they've discovered what he's really good at, which is being a nickel cornerback playing in the slot. He did a lot of that in San Diego successfully, and he did it very successfully last year for Philadelphia. So his role is kind of pinned down now. His confidence and maturity has grown. I'm sure he'll do better the second time around. But yeah, he was taking a risk. He really performed well when there were low expectations and he wasn't under a microscope, and he chose a place where he'll be back under the microscope again. But good for him, I guess. That shows you how much his confidence has developed as well. Just the fact that he's willing to come back here and take on an angry Twitterverse that is probably ready to pick on him.
Hey, Tripp, what's your take on Ken Vaccaro? I mean, it seems to me like there's a lack of a market for him right now. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just the safety market in general, but are you surprised he hasn't landed somewhere yet?
Yeah, we will find out about that because the safety market was moving so slow, and then did Morgan Burnett just sign with Pittsburgh today, I think. So maybe we'll see if that spurns things. But, yeah, what a shame for him. I mean, if he had become a free agent 6 months into last season or 6 months into the season before, I think he could have done really, really well. And I still think he will, but the longer he's sitting out there, it sure feels like he might be one of those veterans who signs the one-year quote-unquote prove-it deal and hopes that the market opens up more for him next year because this is now the time of free agency where there's bargains to be had more than real big money long-term contracts being signed.
Mike Triplett of ESPN. Hey, Mike, appreciate the time as always, my friend, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you real soon.
Thanks, Tripp.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you Thursday night, for sure.
All right.
Oh, yeah, Thursday night, fantasy draft time, man. We missed out on that conversation. Let's do it.
No, we're not doing that live on the air, dude.
Clyde, you be gone. Get a team.
Turn Clyde's mic off.
Yeah,
Thanks, Tripp.
Absolutely, sir. All right, one more break right here on the show. Open segment if you want to get involved. 504-260-1280. Great stuff from Mike Triplett. If you missed any of the show, great stuff. You've had Rick Venturi. You've had Mike Triplett. Sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Clyde will have some updates on NOLA.com later on today. So come on back, one more segment, and then it's Eric Asher from noon to 2. So come on back for one more segment. Sports1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Saturday, March 31st at Southport Hall, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
You can come hang out with members of the Walton & Johnson Show.
Crawfish from NOLA boils, and music from Dr. Rock.
Oh, you're going to rock out with Dr. Rock. More information about the Walton & Johnson Crawfish Bash at WRNO.com.
If you're a small business, first impressions can make all the difference. With Grasshopper, you get all the features of a professional business phone system on your mobile phone. Choose a business phone number, make calls, and send texts. Stay connected and work from anywhere with features like Wi-Fi calling and our desktop app. Set up your account in minutes with no long-term contracts and 24/7 customer support. Make your small business big. Now get $20 off your first month when you visit grasshopper.com/radio. That's grasshopper.com/radio.
It's 3 p.m. For 50 million kids across America, school's out. And for a third of these kids, they're out on their own. Out with nothing to do and nowhere to go. Gives a whole new meaning to the 3 o'clock bell, doesn't it? It's time to support the Boys and Girls Clubs. Visit greatfutures.org.
State Farm, Kathy here.
Hey, it's Mike. My team just pulled off the biggest upset in the history of forever.
Nice, Mike.
Yeah, and some fans are getting crazy. They even flipped over a car.
Whoa.
Turns out it's my car, though.
Oh.
But I don't want to be upset right now. I want to know State Farm's going to take care of this, right?
We got you covered, Mike. Enjoy yourself.
Yes! Woo! Thank you!
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm. Talk to an agent today.
This Saturday, March 24th at the Shrine on Airline at 3 p.m., Tyrann Mathieu launches the first annual Tyrann Mathieu and Friends Kickball Classic. The evening will feature a celebrity kickball game with current and former NFL athletes, notable LSU alumni, and numerous New Orleans natives and celebrities from the sports and entertainment industry. Proceeds from this event benefit the Tyrann Mathieu Foundation. That's Saturday, March 24th at the Shrine on Airline from 3 to 5 p.m. For more information or to get tickets, go to TyrannMathieuKickballClassic.com.
You can't change the whole world, but you can be part of the change in the world for a child living in poverty by becoming a Compassion International child sponsor. You can choose a child to sponsor now at compassion.com/radio. That's compassion.com/radio.
Duncan Older Now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
It's bad when Dave has to walk into the studio and give us SARS masks. That's not good.
They look really good, though.
Flu. It's the bird flu.
I'm wearing one right now. It looks pretty good.
Last time I saw we needed SARS masks, I saw the cure was simply chicken noodle soup and a blanket.
Chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup.
That via South Park, Jeff's favorite show.
Yes, there was a lot of South Park paraphernalia. It's still huge in England, actually.
Well, they get everything late, so it's fine.
I mean, it was amazing how much South Park paraphernalia or merchandise is out there in London.
That is amazing.
Tons of it. Well, I should have brought us all back some Cartman British Jolly Roger flags or something.
You could have brought back a scarf though.
You should have brought back the big tall hat from one of the Royal Army or British Guard or whatever it's called.
I dropped the ball on the match scarf. They only sell it
at the match.
And I didn't realize
That's
it.
my fault for not saying something to you before you left, though.
It was only like £5.
Yeah,
we're not
cheap.
much.
And I collect them, so
Drop the ball.
That's okay. It's not the first time.
Drop the rugby ball. Sorry, bud.
So, as we alluded to before we had our interview with Mike Triplett, which, of course, as always, you can go back and listen to that on our podcast links on the iHeart Media app. We did have a caller before that, and one angry midget wanted to know who tweeted at us.
That's his actual name.
That's his actual name.
He's
one
not
angry midget.
him.
And if you saw his profile pic, it is quite entertaining. His question is, if it is merely a question of run support, wouldn't Rankins make more sense than Sue? He would be cheaper and probably more amenable to playing nose tackle.
Well, your nose, you want specifically to be more of a clogger. You don't want Rankins to be a clogger. You want him to be more affecting. And I know he's played that role where he's clogged up and he's helped and Cam Jordan's talked about this plenty over the last season because his stats were. I'm about to sneeze. Wow, that was great.
That's why you have a cough button. Yes, you hold the cough button while you cough and or sneeze and come back, and it doesn't completely mute your mic. You're breathing in SARS and asbestos. That's why we have these masks. Put them on, dude.
Oh, he's not saying Rankins. He's saying Hankins, as in Jonathan Hankins.
Oh, Hankins. Okay, yes. I thought it was okay. There we go.
Okay.
So I thought it was.
We give Clyde one thing today.
Platform. I literally thought he was saying
his own
Rankins.
Platform, and then.
I thought it was a misspelling. I thought he meant Rankins, not Hankins. So that's on
okay.
me. Sorry, one angry
valid.
midget. One confused midget now.
Oh boy.
Answer the question.
Well, I would say. Well, it's a different question now. Never mind.
The point. I think what he's saying is, if it's just about trying to tie up blockers, just to be a run stuffer, do you need to make a big investment in a guy like Sue, who's going to cost a lot of money? Why not bring in somebody that maybe is going to be more of a role player and accept his role, whereas Sue is kind of this, let's face it, he's a star quality player, but he didn't make a difference. As Tripp pointed out, he didn't make a huge difference in Miami. They paid him all that money. Remember when Sue signed that massive deal? It was one of the biggest free agent contracts ever, and it didn't change the Miami defense. He was good, but he didn't change it.
No. And their offense was so bad it didn't matter anyway.
We're talking about defensive tackle. Unless you have a guy like an Aaron Donald who is a playmaker at defensive tackle, a guy that disrupts backfields, makes plays in the backfield, also can rush the passer, make those difference-making plays, that position just by nature is not really a difference-making position. We've seen that so far with Rankins. I mean, unless you watch Sheldon Rankins, he's not a guy that from down to down you're seeing flash. Because let's face it, in the interior of the offensive line, it's hard. It's hard to rush the passer from him.
Well, the Saints want to design it to where he is able to do that, though, because you're not expecting that, say, from Tyler Davison, who, just by the way, he's going into the final year of his contract. He was drafted in 2015 in that class. He gets a 4-year deal. This is the last year of his contract. And so I don't know if Ndamukong Suh would be the future there. He's not going to be playing there forever, but you look at that and maybe that plays into a role. I don't know. I'm anticipating that they're not going to get him. I've been that way almost since they've even started this thing. They didn't take a chance on Wilkerson. I don't feel like they're going to take a chance on Suh. I just don't see
Where do you
it.
think he goes?
L.A. seems like he would go there.
And you got Brock.
Well, L.A. and Tennessee have cap space. The Saints don't really have cap space. They just don't.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to be skeptical, but I guess I am skeptical after covering the NFL forever. Most of these guys are taking deals because of money. Most of the not always. There might be a small difference. You might get an offer somewhere else. It's a little more. I think Tyrann Mathieu said yesterday he had greater offers than what he got in Houston. He wants to go to Houston because they got a chance to win. I'm sure Patrick Robinson had similar offers to come here, but for the most part,
Patrick Robinson admitted that it made financial sense to come to New Orleans because that's got to be where he got the biggest deal.
He won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, and now he's going to go get paid. So, I mean, we can spin it into this narrative of he wanted to come back home, and I'm sure he wasn't going to go somewhere bad, I don't think. I think there's a calculus to this decision. It's a good spot. They paid him a good offer. Philly was a good spot too, but not as good an offer. So you piece it all together, and it was the best deal for him in a market that could still win potentially another Super Bowl.
And if you're talking specifically about Patrick Robinson, I'm sure it makes a big difference that he's not going back to New Orleans and Steve Spagnuolo's around. He's going back to New Orleans.
Back on the train.
He's going back
Spags beating,
to
kicking.
New Orleans.
Spags bashing.
I mean, does he not deserve to be ripped?
Forever? Let's get Shanley on here. And
Forever?
Let's gang up on
Forever. Anyway, he played pretty well when Dennis Allen was around. I think there's a difference there, and you know exactly what you're going to do with him instead. Steve Spagnuolo didn't know what to do with anybody, and then, he leaves, and all of a sudden they actually, for one more year, actually can make the defense not a total sieve. So there you go. I do think having Dennis Allen around helped the matter.
I don't think there's any doubt. I think they have a plan, as they always do. I shouldn't say always. I think lately...
Or a good plan. Lately, sometimes their plans can be bad.
With Dennis Allen on board, Jeff Ireland here, they seem to finally have a vision for what they're doing on defense. That was not always the case, as we all know, through the dry years of the Rob Ryan kind of circus. And then
dry? You saw a lot of puddles, like people crying because it was so bad.
Between Ryan and Spagnuolo wandering the desert to try and find a replacement for Greg Williams, they finally seem to have hit on, and I thought it was interesting what Rick Venturi said, how underrated a hire that was. I don't think it was that underrated here. I think we all thought it was a home run, but it's turned out to be great. I think Jeff Ireland's hire has been one of the more underrated hires in the league. But they now seem to understand, always on offense with Sean Payton, it seems like he knows exactly what the strengths and weaknesses are of a particular player, can bring them in and plug them into the offense, and the players produce. Ted Ginn Jr. was the latest example of that. That hasn't been the case on defense. I think they probably have a plan for Sue, how he's going to fit in, but I don't think anybody needs to sweat if they don't get Ndamukong Suh. I think this defense is going to be fine, but I still have major concerns about the pass rush.
I do too, and I like the signing of Alex Okafor. I didn't really put an item in my free agency takeaways that's up at NOLA.com now. Has been up for a few hours, but there is risk there. We don't know what it is, and I've been drafting my first two mock drafts. I had Sam Hubbard, defensive end from Ohio State, and people are saying, well, they've got someone just like him in Trey Hendrickson. Well, I don't know if Trey Hendrickson is the end-all, be-all answer. I don't know if Al-Qadim Muhammad is, or George Johnson, or Haole Kikaha, or any of these people. I just don't. So you take the best player available. If Hubbard's not the best player available, so be it. Doesn't matter. Just take the best player available. If it's Hubbard, and I feel like maybe it might be, and I'm not sold on tight end at that spot yet, could be.
I like your Hubbard pick. I think that makes a lot of sense.
It's safe.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Might be lame, but it's safe. So, all right, great show. Want to thank Rick Venturi. Want to thank Mike Triplett. Got some good stuff coming up later on in the week, so tune back in. Of course, tomorrow's Wobble Wobble Wednesday. We'll have Will Guillory on. Pelicans play tonight, play tomorrow night, play Thursday night, play Saturday night. Huge stretch. So we'll talk with Will, and we'll have plenty of other guests to talk with on the show. So come on back. Eric Asher coming up next, noon to 2. That followed by Chris Gordy, followed by Corey Johnson. So stay tuned. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Before Boost, our phone